This episode of Behind the Video is brought to you by the Independent Media Network. The Independent Media Network helps journalists and content creators create their own jobs by building sustainable online businesses. If you're an unemployed or underemployed journalist or content creator, visit imnct.com for more information. Hey everybody, and welcome back to Behind the Video. This is episode number 63, and joining me as always is my lovely and talented co-host Tim Street from Los Angeles, California. Hey Tim.
Hey, how's it going, Lon?
Now you're going to the desert, so we've got to make this a quick show today, but we've got a lot of content to pack in, and we're on the old school Hangouts just in case we had technical problems. We wanted to make sure we could get the show done before you head out to the desert. So, and Tim thinks he'll come back, which is very important when you go to the desert to have a return trip planned out, right?
Yeah.
Now we have a guest, right?
We do.
So who is our guest today?
Shilpi, tell us.
Hi everyone.
Tell us who you are and what you're working on, because you've got a pretty cool story.
I am, I guess, what you would call a web content creator. I have a web series called Hipsterhood, which we just released season 2 through Blip Studios, and so that's kind of what I'm working on, and that's what I'm hoping to do more of.
So Blip Studios, is that kind of a multi-channel network arrangement, or because they're funding what you're putting together? Is that how it works?
I don't think it's really a multi-channel network. I mean, Blip really likes good content, and so I think whenever they see content that they like and they want more of, they just do what they can to help. So in my case, there was some funding that came my way, and they're obviously helping with like marketing and PR and all that kind of stuff too.
So tell us about
the first season. Yeah, the first season you just did that on your own, right?
Correct. That was on my own. I was kind of getting the itch, like, oh, I haven't made anything in a while. You know, I want to make something, but it's so expensive to make things. So, you know, I had an idea, and I tried to figure out how I could do it cheaply, but also, you know, get people to see it. And that's where the I guess that my shtick for season 1 was that almost all of it is voiceover, which cut down on costs when it came to production sound, and it kind of told a story in a unique way. I think something you don't normally see, and so it got some people interested, and it ultimately led to a season 2.
Well, it's not just voiceover. The actors are basically thinking out loud, right?
Yes, yeah, it is. It's their inner dialogue and their inner monologues as they.
And tell us about the show itself. Set it up a little bit for people that don't know. It takes place in Silver Lake, right?
Takes place in Silver Lake, Los Angeles.
That's a special neighborhood for those people that aren't in LA. What's special about Silver Lake?
Silver Lake is hipster central. So, you know, if you drive down Sunset Boulevard, you will suddenly be in Silver Lake, and you will know, because suddenly everybody's wearing black skinny jeans. There's a lot of fixies. There's a lot of, it's just skinny people with people who haven't necessarily showered that day, and they're all drinking coffee. There's like a coffee shop every single block, and it's all like, they're not chains, you know, they're all just individual roasters selling their coffee, and this is what people do in the neighborhood, or at least that was my perception when I moved here. And so the series is built around these two hipsters that keep seeing each other around the neighborhood, but they can't necessarily bring themselves to talk to each other, because that's not something hipsters do. And so the entire first season is about them trying to get to that next level of actually talking. And in the meantime, you hear all their inner dialogue of what they're thinking about as they think about talking to each other.
And so, do you have to study
and the
hipsters?
characters have kind of unique names, right?
They do, because they've never met. In the first season, they give each other nicknames. So it's a cereal guy and faux fur girl. And cereal guy, it's because he's shopping for cereal. And faux fur girl, it's because she's wearing this faux fur vest that she's just recently bought and is not really sure if she can pull off the look. So she's very insecure about it.
And what kind of research do you have to do on hipsters to make this authentic?
Well, for me, it was fairly easy. I was just, you know, living in my neighborhood.
So a lot of direct observation then.
Yes, exactly. That's what it was.
With a little bit of, I guess, amplification and exaggeration, right?
Yeah. Because what I realized as I was living here is that there are quite a few like real, actual 100% hipsters, but by and large, everybody else was in this like in-between state where like they thought that they were hipsters, but maybe they actually weren't, or maybe they weren't really sure if they were, or did they actually want to be a hipster? There's a lot of kind of insecurity and confusion about what is a hipster and should you be one.
And so you have a season 2 now, and you did something a little bit differently. So what a lot of web series have done is they've been releasing their episodes episodically, of course, like a lot of other shows on television would. But you kind of took the Netflix model by dumping all of season 2 at once. And what led to that decision, and how is that done as far as viewership goes as compared to last season?
Yeah, well, that was actually Blip's idea. They were really excited about the show, and they were just, trying to figure out, like, what can we do to make this the best thing ever? And so they came to me with the model, and, there's so many pros and cons on either side. Like, I feel like a lot of people do like a weekly release. They don't want the ability to binge, but I think by releasing it all at once, you kind of give people whatever they want. So the people who want to watch it all at once, they'll do it. And there's definitely a crowd that doesn't want to, and they're not going to watch it all at once. They're just going to watch on their own time frame. And so I think overall it's been really good. Our viewer retention has increased. So, the biggest problem with the week-to-week is how do you get people to come back every week?
There's so much stuff out there,
show.
right? Yeah.
Exactly.
And how long are the episodes?
Season 2, in general, they're about 3 to 5 minutes long each. Mm-hmm.
Right. So it takes, and I think there's probably something to be said about watching a long time to get that investment. And if your episodes are short, you get forgotten too quickly, right?
Exactly, yeah. So it's been very interesting because the social media has been the most interesting part, because I knew on a weekly release schedule, which we are still doing on YouTube. It's coming up once a week on YouTube. People would very specifically talk about certain moments or things that happen, and now I realize they're a little more generic, because I think everybody knows that it's all up at once, and so people don't want to give stuff away on the social media. So they'll just say things like, "Oh my God, that was so crazy!" Or like, "I did not see that coming," and then I'm not exactly sure what they're referring to.
Right. So. But I guess the same etiquette kind of applies, right? That you should probably keep the spoilers to yourself as things move throughout here. So
exactly.
Now when you produce, I guess about 12 episodes per season, is that right?
It was 9 episodes season 1 and 10 episodes season 2.
And because they're so short, are you able to kind of shoot everything in one day? Like, what's the production schedule like on something like this versus, or maybe you wish it was, right?
Oh my goodness. Well, the unique thing about Hipsterhood is that every episode takes place in a different location. Oh, so like after season 1, I told everybody I knew, I was like, now I understand why people shoot web series in their living rooms, because it's just so much faster than traveling. So for season 1, I actually never got in a full day of production. We shot like 8 or 9 half days, because I could never get everybody scheduled between the crew, the cast, and the location. For season 2, I had some more time to plan, and we did it in about I think it was 5 or 6 days of production, but it was kind of spread over weekends. So we did like a weekend, and then like a 3-day weekend, something like that.
And how do you promote the show? It's on Blip and it's on YouTube, so you have the ability to kind of pick up viewers from both areas. But how hard is it to kind of rise above the noise? I mean, certainly you've got some good backing behind you here with Blip really producing funding the show and being a partner in the show. But how do you get it out there? What's the trick? What kind of advice do you have too?
Yeah, I mean that's difficult. So Blip is obviously helping a lot now, and they've got things going out on different blogs and things of people that would be interested but don't necessarily know about the show. But when I was doing season 1, it was just me. I was just doing all the PR and marketing by myself. And my goal, I had one goal, and that was to get 3 articles in the press. And it didn't matter what the press was. It could be like some guy in Iowa's blog. That's fine. But if that was... and I was able to get... I just worked all of my channels and networks and people that I knew, and I was able to get an article in Huffington Post, and USA Today actually approached us the day after release because they had heard about it. We had put out a press release, and so that was great. So between USA Today and Huffington Post for season 1, we got a lot more exposure than I think we would have. And then, this is the type of thing that, like, I don't even know how this happened, but the local news picked up the show. So the day we released, like, there was a news clip that I heard about, like, 2 days later. I didn't even know what had happened. And so, like, for me, the PR kind of was very organic, and I did as much as I could. My advice is always just reach out to every single person you know that, might be able to help you spread the word in any way, and then, go for it.
With Blip, you had a party for the season 2 release, and they invited influencers that would tweet about it and have you on their Sunday morning video, Google Hangout podcast thing.
It was very strategic, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
It
always works out. So you can add us to your press list. So we've really helped, like, double the goal now, right?
Oh yeah. So after I got those 3 articles for season 1, I was like, I'm done. But then they kept coming. Being totally new to this, I'd never done any PR marketing before. I had no idea. It was the hardest part of making the actual web series. But what I learned was, like, once you get 1 or 2 articles, it starts to snowball because other people just pick up kind of information from the original articles and, like, regurgitate it. And so then I would just see things popping up all over. And that was really nice. And
it helps to start with a good product too. I mean, this is a well-produced show. The cinematography is great. The acting is great. I mean, this is a really high-quality product, which I'm sure really contributes to it. Do you feel as though, in the business that you're in, because you've worked on the traditional side of the video production business and the film production business, do you see the person in your role on the web doing a lot more than you would in a more traditional production? As far as all the day-to-day. I mean, is it been a real learning experience for you? And what are some of the surprises that you had along the way?
Oh, God, it's such a learning experience. I run into so many filmmakers who say, I've been thinking about making a web series, but, I mean, did you have to do a lot of PR and marketing? And I would say, yes, I spent about 3 months learning how to do PR and marketing. And they're like, I don't really think I want to do that. and I would say, okay, that's great. Don't make a web series.
Yeah, right. Just don't do it.
Yeah, you just, you have to put a lot of time and effort into learning skills that you don't have. So I had video production skills. I didn't have PR marketing skills. I didn't, I did, when I started, I didn't know what Twitter was. I had to figure out about that. And you have to figure out your demographic. Like, you really have to figure out your demographic first. I was lucky and unlucky in that I assumed that my demographic would be hipsters in the neighborhood, in their mid-20s, because that's essentially who I was writing about. So I thought they would be interested. Turns out they were not interested. My demographic is...
They didn't want to be made fun of, right?
Yeah, exactly. My demographic is mostly kind of younger women, I think in their teens. Mm-hmm. I do have, I have fans across the spectrum in terms of age. But I think, the people who are on the internet and are most active are the teenagers. And so they're the ones who I hear from most and interact with the most, and therefore, I've kind of started catering to them because I know what they're looking for, and the older people or the kind of the people in the different demographics, I just don't know exactly what they're looking for. So so that's been really interesting. And then the other thing that I found was hard was when I was writing the show, I wrote it fairly quickly over a couple of months. And, in my mind, I was like, oh, I've made this so easy with this voiceover thing. We don't need production sound. I can shoot in locations while they're open. I can do it really fast. I'm a fairly fast, kind of director on the set. And I was like, this is going to be so easy. It's going to be so easy. It's not going to be a big deal. It was, the hardest thing I've ever done. Because, again, I was producing, writing, and directing all at the same time. And, providing craft services. I was doing everything except for the actual shooting, because my husband is a cinematographer, so he was the DP. And then we would sometimes have a PA, and literally, so our crew was 2 to 3 people. And it was so much hard work. It was the same amount of work as doing my thesis film in film school, which I've heard is the same amount of work as shooting a feature film. So you can't think of a web series just being easier in every way. I think it's actually harder in every way because not only do you have to shoot the film, and that's difficult, but then you have to make sure that people see it, and you can. That's the great thing about web series, right? You can make sure people see it, but you really have to put work into that. You can't just put it up and expect people to find it.
Let me ask you this: have more people seen Hipsterhood than have seen your thesis film?
Oh yeah. I don't. God, I don't even. I mean, probably like 200% more people have seen the web series because it's on the internet. When my film that I made with USC, because I did it as a USC kind of copyrighted project, you're not allowed to put it on the internet. So
immediately there's no audience for it.
Yeah, exactly. So all I have is my film festivals and anybody who I've directly sent a DVD to.
Right. Well, isn't that the case with most independent film, though? I mean, there's a lot of people out there making independent films, and they basically never see the light of day. And had they taken that idea and worked it into a web series, they would be able to build a following, to build an audience, and to get press, and hopefully that would lead to other work or revenue.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, my advice for anybody getting into filmmaking or in film school or whatever is don't make a short film, make a web series. And it will be more work than making the short film, but you'll get a lot more out of it. And I think a lot of filmmakers are realizing this now.
And you own it, right? I mean, there's a big difference too. That in your student film, so you're paying tuition, and yet they own the film. What's wrong with that picture, right?
Exactly. It's just such a better way to do things. I mean, you get to own it. You get to decide everything about it, and you don't have to depend on judges at film festivals. Like you can just have the people judge, and see how they feel about it.
Judge with the eyeballs and see where it goes. And before we move on to our news, I was also interested because I saw on your channel a lot of interaction that you had as a creator with the audience, which you normally don't see that, right? I mean, usually it's the actors, the actresses, and the audience. And in this case, you were, on a number of occasions addressing your audience. And how have they shaped the show? And what was that like for you as someone who's worked behind the scenes mostly on these productions to have to be the face of it now?
Yeah, I mean, they shaped the show by kind of demanding a season 2. So I was done after season 1. I kind of creatively, I was like, well, first of all, I was exhausted, and secondly, kind of creatively, I knew where the story went in my head. But I had ended season 1 in a very odd way, and everybody wanted to know more. So they were like, wait, what happens? Like, you didn't really finish the story very well. And I was like, well, whatever. But they kept kind of asking me, like, I want season 2, and so then I realized I felt I had a responsibility to these people that I didn't know, and I was like, I think I have to give them a season 2, and so that's when I started thinking about how that would happen. But yeah, there are many actors and actresses who they thrive off the social media, and for them, like, they end up being the face of the show. But I think for me, just because my actors, I mean, they're super busy, so they're just not online all the time. And I felt like I wanted to interact with these people because I wanted to know what they thought. I wanted to know what they liked and they didn't like, and who they are. I really wanted to know who they are. Who is my demographic? That's when I started interacting with them, was when I started learning that my demographic was different than who I thought it was. And it's really fun. I check my Twitter every day, all the time, my Facebook. I always try to respond to people because, as a fan of anything, when I'm a fan and I reach out to somebody that I'm a fan of and they respond, like, it's great, it's fun.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. And now you're addicted. You went from not doing it at all to being an addict, like all of us, on our phones all day checking out things. So.
Yes, exactly.
Well, that's great. Well, you mind sticking around for a few minutes so we can go through the news? And if you have anything that you think is worth adding to the discussion, please do. So
yeah, no problem.
Now, Tim, did you see this article on Read Write Web, if you can say that 3 times fast, about the YouTube economy?
Yeah, it's a pretty amazing article. If you want to get caught up on like everything that happened this spring and summer as it goes to YouTube, it's a great article to check out. Really talks about the issues at hand in terms of the multi-channel networks and how they're going to survive or fail, and it's predicting the failure of them based upon folks at Sashi and Sashi, Jason Calacanis, who we've talked about on the show ad nauseum, and a couple of other folks. So if you get a chance, check this out. It's a really interesting article.
And our friend Dane Golden is quoted in there, Tim, too. So he's basically saying that maybe the value for some of them moving forward is the big data that they collect, and I was thinking too in the context of just looking over what Shilpi's been working on, and I'd love to hear Shilpi's thoughts on this too, is that, when you're doing something with production cost, where you've got actors and actresses and you've got craft services, even if you're having to cook the food yourself, you're still paying for the ingredients. I mean, there's expenses and there's costs involved. And I then look to like the Netflix model, which is, paying big money to a production house to produce content for them, and in many ways, Blip and YouTube Studios and that kind of thing might be doing that. Perhaps the issue is that, for someone like a Ray William Johnson who has a fixed studio, his costs are minimal. Is there a value to his production flow if he already has the audience and he already has everything he needs to make his show? Whereas in the case of a House of Cards or a Hipsterhood, there's a very different need there, and perhaps they just morph into production houses. Is that something you could see them doing, Tim, or not?
For me, that's the big question, because the problem with small kind of content creators like me is, we're not making very much money. Like, I still have a full-time job. House of Cards, Netflix, yes, they can pay regular rates. And if I can just tell you guys a quick story, right after I made Hipsterhood Season 1, I was at, I believe it was an IAW TV event where I met you, Tim, maybe for the first time. And I met one of my former professors from USC, and I was like, oh, what are you doing here? And he says, well, I just made a web series. I think it might have been for Fun or Die, I'm not sure. But, he's like, I'm getting into the game a little bit, just, meeting people. I was like, oh, that's great. And I hear him start to talk to one of his colleagues about a deal he's trying to make for a web series. And, the network is, they're not giving him as much money as he wants. They're only going to give about $500,000, and it's really an $800,000 show. And you can just imagine me, standing there, these numbers are boggling my mind, and I was like, wait, what? Who is spending this much money on a web series? I spent 1/500th of that amount on to make mine, and I got really depressed for a second, because I was like, wait, it's just become regular Hollywood.
Right.
And so, I haven't really reconciled that. People need to get paid, but I don't necessarily know how.
Right, how it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's a scaling involved too. Tim, what are your thoughts on this? Is this something that, are they going to transition into more production houses, or are we looking, just at them not being useful?
I think that what we're going to see is a lot of these multi-channel networks are going to, get bought up by big media, by traditional media, as in the case of Revision 3 getting bought by Discovery. I think it's, now I'm confused, but I want to say there's one of them, either the collective or maker, that has money from Warner Brothers, and then Awesomeness TV got $33 million from DreamWorks. So I think there's going to be this consolidation that's going to happen for the multi-channel networks, and obviously a lot of these multi-channel networks that have thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of members, people making content to them for free, that's going to dry up.
Yeah.
People aren't going to keep making content for free unless they get something out of it. It's either fame or fortune, and fame without fortune turns you into Joey Buttafuoco. So, there's not really a business model there.
There's no middle ground there at all. And
yeah.
I got approached by one of those channels the other day, for my tech reviews, and it looked really scammy on the surface, but I could see a teenager getting this email like, hey, we can do X, Y, and Z for you, and all I saw when doing the math was that I'm giving up $1.25 per thousand for nothing,
Yeah, it's not like they're going to put you on the front page of their highly trafficked website and drive traffic to your channel. I think that's one of the flaws of the multi-channel networks, is that they're so busy signing up creators that they haven't spent time promoting and cross-promoting. If they took the traditional television model where like a cable channel will make on-air promos that run on their channel, but they also make cross-channel promos that they have their partners run. So let's say you're, Disney Channel, and you have Disney Channel promos running on Disney Channel, but you also have promos running on say Nickelodeon, but it's running on a Time Warner Cable or Charters on their avails, and they're driving traffic to say, oh, watch Disney Channel and sign up for high-speed internet with Charter, So those they cross-promote shows as well, and that's not something that I've seen done to any length. Now, I have seen something that network television used to do in the 70s, and that's cross-talent promotion, where they'll have different stars appear on different shows, which is a great idea, and that's worked out really well. But you don't see that infrastructure developed yet for cross-promotion and marketing of channels to help everyone who's on the network.
Yeah, I think that's really an issue there, and the fact that in the case of a TV network model, they were able to sell the advertising directly. I guess you can do the baked-in thing, right? They are allowing some of that to happen, but that they're not getting much sales, mainly because I think it's so much easier and cheaper to target your audiences directly using AdSense or AdWords and going through the YouTube in video process. So I think they're having a hard time carving out a real effective way to get advertisers out there. And one of the things that this article mentioned is that for some brands, they just reach out to the channel owners directly because, chances are they are starving already. They'll take whatever they can get directly if it doesn't violate their contract. There was another guy, Ricky Butler, is quoted of Plaid Social in the article saying that he actually keeps a list of the people he wants to reach out to should their contracts ever end or the deals fall through. So there's I think there's just a lot of kind of figuring out that has to go on. And really, I really think that if you're going to do one of these things, approach people that have real production costs who really need the help to get started, almost like a venture capital kind of thing where, there's some real expensive means of production that, would also, by the way, drive the quality up across the board if that were to happen. So we'll have to see where it goes. So anything else in the news of interest to you, Tim, before you have to take off here?
Well, we did lose a video pioneer, David Frost, the interviewer who's known for interviewing Nixon, as well as doing talk shows and other things, passed away at 74. So we lost one of our most ambitious folks from the video world. And something that David would do, not only would he interview politicians, but he would do game shows. He would do whatever. He really had an independent spirit. And I think he'll be missed.
He will be. And I was watching, I don't know if you saw this on YouTube, just do a search for David Frost and Muhammad Ali. It is the most entertaining 20 minutes you'll ever. It's funny to watch him try to get control of this interview. And Muhammad Ali is just dropping like one line after the other. It was really cool. So Tim's got to go in a second. So we're going to skip through a lot of our top 10s and stuff this week because there really isn't anything all that interesting in them anyhow. So I
got to run, so I will catch you guys later. Thanks for joining the show, Shilpi, and good luck with season 2.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Shilpi. And one quick pick of the week, because I promised this last week, so I'm going to put this up. And Tim, you can head out if you need to. We had talked about Shilpi last week. I had teased the fact that there's a neat way now to use aerial drones to do more of your photography.
Oh, wow.
So, and here's just a quick rundown of it. There's a piece of software called Q Ground Control, and this works with, I don't know if like some of the higher end production units work with this thing, but I would imagine it does. And what you do is you basically chart out a course on it. You load it into your drone, and in this case, I'm using the Parrot AR drone. You hit a button, and it will then just basically fly that course, even without a Wi-Fi connection. It is it's actually kind of creepy.
Yes, I was going to say.
You hit the button, and what it does, you'll see it here, is it'll take off, and then it'll spin around in a circle, and then just fly off on its own, and then when it's done, it lands itself too. So it is really a little creepy,
wow.
But.
And is it recording data while it's flying?
Yeah, it will. Yep. The Parrot drone has a camera built in, and there's other ones that have, like, there's a one called the DJI Phantom, which a lot of filmmakers are getting into, which you attach a GoPro to the bottom of it. Mm-hmm. And it's also GPS guided. I'm not sure if it works with this software or not, but yeah, it'll record a video of its entire flight automatically onto a an onboard flash card, and
Wow.
you just take it and stick it into your computer, and you're off and running. The video quality on the Parrot drone is so. So it's good for journalism, probably not good for the stuff that you might be doing, but
Right.
it's pretty neat. So
Well, I'm going to work that into my productions.
oh yeah, well every hipster has a drone. That's like the new thing.
Well,
here.
obviously,
So,
yeah.
so Shilpi, where can people find you and all your work?
You can find Hipsterhood at hipsterhoodseries.com. And, from there you can find everything else. My name is Shilpi Roy, and I'm on Facebook. My Twitter is IPLISH, which is Shilpi backwards almost. And, those are the two best places to find me.
Excellent. And you can catch the whole show in one sitting now for the second season, and then you can catch up on the first one. So I'm sure your audience wants to know if there'll be a season 3, but I'm sure you're not ready to talk about that yet. But check it.
That is correct.
But check out the show. And Tim Street, who had to go take his family to the desert, can be found at One Tim Street on Twitter. And as for me, you can find me at Lon Seidman, LonSeidman on Twitter, or lonseidman.com. This show, Behind the Video, we have a Google Plus community, behindthevideo.com. Check us out there. We record the show every Sunday morning at 11:30 a.m. Eastern, 8:30 Pacific time, and we do that right here on Google, either YouTube Live or the Hangouts on air. And we've, it's funny, we've been doing YouTube Live the last 2-3 weeks, and I think we're getting more viewership on the Hangout. So we might switch back to the Hangout on air. Maybe I'll bring it back to the studio and just do it in there. So.
Old school.
Old school. It's a lot. It's a lot easier to set up. I've got I'm going to do a video of this today. Actually, there's literally like 18 things I have to connect to each other in the right order, at the right time, and it looks pretty cool. I don't know if you saw our other broadcast, but it looks cool. I just have to make it more efficient now.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It's a lot. It's a fun hobby. That's what it is. So. Well, thanks again for joining us, and we will be back again next week, and we are a wrap. Stories for this episode were compiled by producer Jason Perrier. Follow him on Twitter at JASONPERRIER. Behind the Video is a production of Ape Digital Incorporated and the Independent Media Network, LLC. All rights reserved.